Hello, and welcome to the Financial Fox, investing and innovation ideas with a twist. Today, we are obviously stocking shares, smart investing with Clem Chambers and Zach Mears. And here is Clem. Clem?
I need to take my shirt off.
Well, you are not on video.
Oh, okay, good. I can then. Hold on. Let me switch that on. Hey, here we go.
Awesome. How are you?
I'm good. I'm here. That's the main thing.
Exactly. It was great to see you earlier on in the week at the Blockchain Expo. I think you kind of, it was an interesting panel. I mean, and discussing what actually happened just afterwards with regulation. And we are seeing Coinbase as well, that getting some pressure from the SEC, which is quite interesting.
Well, I was a bit bearish, and then exactly. 2 hours later, the whole market collapses. And I thought, exactly. Did I say something?
Well, I think you made some really good point about how regulation is kind of putting pressure, taking basically on crypto, and is happening. So
well, it's very interesting because in regulation, there's this idea of regulatorial capture. Now, that's a bad thing. What happens is, let's just say you're the concrete regulator and you regulate everyone who makes concrete. Well, anyway, the concrete guys go around and they say, hey, Mr. Concrete Regulator, we your friend. Oh, would you like to come out for the races? Oh, would you like to come for a nice meal? Oh, blah, 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 blah. Oh, we're going to hire your girlfriend. And oh, yes. And all that stuff. And before you know it, the regulator is chummy with all the people that are being regulated. And that's called regulatorial capture. And that's a bad thing. And that's what's happened in the financial services, because the banks are going, oi, regulator, you've been kicking us around. You've been fining us left, right, and centre. You've been making billions out of catching us being bad people. What you're doing with these crypto people, they're going to put us out of business, you know. They're competing with us unfairly. Get on their case and shut them down. And the regulator's going, oh, responsible. And it's clearly, if you look at it, that it's the banks pressing hard on the regulators to shut these guys down, because these guys are better service providers than they are.
But also, I think what is happening with the Coinbase and they lending product they are trying to roll out, and they actually been kind of hammered by the the security the SEC in the US that is telling them, it's kind of threatening them, but without explaining why they can't do it. So they are not giving a satisfying justification to.
Well, they don't need to. They're the regulator.
Exactly.
I mean, ultimately, right, government can do what it likes. If it wants to fly a load of planes halfway around the world and blow up children, it will. And it does. Yeah. That's what government does. It makes the rules. And if you find a loophole and they're not going through it too, they will shut it down. They'll just say, stop that. If you don't stop that, we're throwing you in jail. We'll find a rule to throw you into jail later. Oh, obstruction of justice. Oh, lying to the police or whatever. We'll lock you up. Because if we say you're guilty, you're guilty. And if we say you're innocent, you're innocent. But, stop it. Because we say so, do it. That's what power is. Power comes from the barrel of a gun. And all governments, ultimately, they have the power of life and death over you one way or the other. And if they don't like it, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah. Well, the crypto is having kind of like an interesting developments now, let's say that way. But let's talk about stocking shares. Let's talk a bit about how we should use ADVFN to become a better trader, better investor, to become more like Clem style, right? And make lots of money, which is what everybody want to know. So Zach is also here. He's joining us. Zach, how are you?
Very well, apart from having a bad back.
Well, I heard that you have a new job, so
yeah, it's all secret. I can't tell you anything. I've decided, but it means I have to go to an office, which is rather painful for me. I haven't been to an office for 20 years. As you can see, I'm here in an office, so maybe one day I'll tell you about it. But
well, now you've got a bad back, you can take plenty of time off.
Yeah, exactly. This is perfect. Then I was thinking my birthday was on Tuesday, and until Saturday, I was thinking, my God, I'm nearly 55, and I feel young and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and now I feel like an old man. So it's obviously everything's fallen apart.
But Zach, I was convinced it was the 13. Oh, sorry. Happy birthday, Zach.
Well, that's all right.
Zach, the birthday boy today.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. Somebody else said happy birthday today, which only people on Twitter got it right, which is sort of quite a good indictment of where I am in the market. But anyway, I had a great day on Tuesday. The weather was fantastic, as you will be aware. It was like a some tropical summer day, so that was all good. So
well, Zach, we were trapped in a conference, me and Clem. Clem was hammering the crypto market before the crash.
Well, yeah, but could you just explain? I don't know, maybe you already said it, but why is El Salvador making crypto legal? Why is that negative for the crypto space?
It's nothing to do with it. People are looking for a reason why it happened, and therefore they're grabbing on any narrative that seems to be anywhere near what happened. But, we go back a long way. Bucket shops, what do? When you're long, suddenly the market spikes down, doesn't it? And when you're short, suddenly the market spikes up. I mean, it's as old as the hills, this sort of stuff.
Well, it's almost like it was almost better to travel than arrive. Like obviously the crypto people sort of want, or maybe they don't want crypto to go mainstream. If it goes mainstream, then it just becomes like any fiat currency. Is that right?
There's a lot of skullduggery in crypto, and there's a lot of very, very spicy exchanges, and they will blow out your shorts because they know where they are. They will. Oh, would you like it? Would you like a stop loss with that, sir? And would you like some leverage with that, sir? Oh, you would. Oh, thank you very much. Oh, you're short here and your stop's there. Oh, sorry, your stop loss got hit. Oh, bye to your money. We own it now. There's a lot of that. There's a hell of a lot of that out there. And I believe that a lot of what you're seeing is the exchanges. They're not exchanges. They're bucket shops. The bucket shops moving the price around to take out people's stops. And, that's how you do it. Yeah. And I think that not your stop loss, not your Bitcoin. And it is the oldest game in the book. All you need to do is read, as I'm sure you have, reminiscences of a stock trader from 1900, and you'll see this market today. It's the same game. So you've got to be very careful because there's a lot of people.
Well, it's reminiscences of a stock operator, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. But that's 100 years ago. And there is stock operator. Yeah.
But Clem, basically what you're saying is that what I'm kind of, obviously the price of Bitcoin went down. I was stuck trying to sell some stock, and actually Coinbase wasn't allowing me to do it because, all transaction unsuccessful. So I guess lots of people, they took the opportunity to buy and then make money on the fall. Is that trading that way kind of like something that is so difficult that people shouldn't actually do it? I think it's very difficult to kind of try, right now it's going to drop 20%, I'm going to buy, and then it's really going to go up. It's now going to go up to 40 to over 50,000.
Well, let me tell you a story. You personally are responsible for saving me a Renoir. Because when the COVID balloon went up, you called up and said, "Oh, mamma mia, Italia, we're locking it down." So I go, "I'm going to sell 25% of my portfolio because that's going to be bad." So I go to sell, and the brokers are all broken, and I can't really sell properly. I had to do sorts of crazy kill and fill things, even to sell my. I sold everything because when the market breaks, you don't want to be in it. Yeah, if your providers can't provide, you can't trade it. If you haven't got a platform that can stay up when the market's in a fast market situation, you can't use that platform. And if you haven't got one that stays up when this actually is happening, you can't trade it because they'll just break on you and you'll get caught upside down and you'll get killed, right? You have to have a platform you can trade in when the market goes fast like this. And if you haven't got one, you've got to stay away.
Right. So that means Coinbase isn't one, because I got stuck for half a day and I actually managed to sell only 11 o'clock in the night. And I actually know, I was talking to some people, they spend over 2 Ethereum to make a trade.
Yeah, you can't operate on that level during those events if you haven't got a platform to do it. So you have to stay away.
All right. So the market is nervous, basically. You're not thinking it was just a fall. It might fall more.
Well, I'd like to hear Zach's opinion because I know I talk too much.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that. And I know I don't let Zach get a word in edgeways. So I want to hear his opinion, and then I'll tell you what I think's going on.
I'm actually, I mean, I think on the previous times there's been a shakeout, I was like really worried and everything else. On this one, I just think it was nothing. So it's like, I think the Bitcoin's near the 200-day, which is around 46,000, something like that. So it's just come back to that. I don't see that there's any problem. And looking at, like, I think Cardano or something like that, they're already there. They broke to new all-time highs, the best cryptos. So basically, I think that the real shakeout was the one earlier this year, the 60,000 to 30,000, and this is just a bump in the road. And you know, probably just the surprise. You know, if it is El Salvador, then maybe that was the excuse. But I mean, who cares about El Salvador? I mean,
Exactly.
I mean, if that's what destroys or gives us a bear market in crypto, I mean, you know, God help us, you know, really. So I don't think even though crypto is weird, I don't think it's not that weird.
Or it could have even been, you know, this Coinbase situation that just came out yesterday. Maybe people knew it before. You know, it could be whatever Clem said.
Yeah.
You know, and I agree. It's people just building a narrative around it.
Yeah, I mean, the SEC news, isn't it? That one. I mean, I think that is a bit more scary, because you know, you have that scenario which was always there, that cryptos would be allowed to grow until they became serious, and then they would be gradually whittled away by central banks off the back of, you know, anything threatening fiat currency. So that is more serious, but but that doesn't work really, because the whole way that crypto works is that it's able to get around central banks and probably even regulators as well. So, and if Coinbase gets shut down, well, an unregulated or a mini Coinbase will turn up in Uzbekistan, and then, you know, we'll start the process again. So it's just like cutting down weeds. I mean, they just grow back faster and stronger.
Well, you know, I remember the Twilight Zone movie when the character says, "If you think that's scary, I'll show you something scary." I would be a really big bear on Bitcoin, as I have been for some time, and I would say it's going to go to 10,000 from here, and it might go down a long way. It might go to 20, might not. But the one big gigantic issue, the elephant in the room, or as the Chinese call it, a grey rhino, is the social clampdown in China. That's a big hairy deal. That's 1.3 billion going into a, you know, cultural revolution style situation, where children are banned from playing computer games, where billionaires are going missing, where all sorts of crazy stuff is going on. And that's real. Now, if I was Mr. Billionaire property developer, property developers get clamped down on too, etc., etc., I would be buying Bitcoin like no tomorrow. And I tell you, if you read about what's going on in the clampdown in China, and they keep doing that, and this is going to be a thing for them. It's not just a blip. If this is going to be a wave.
But you're talking about China. You know, they was to say whatever happens in the US happens over here 4 or 5 years later, and America sneezes and the UK catches a cold and that sort of thing. But what I think, something that I don't think people have realized over the last, since the 90s basically, is all the horrors of China. Well, the horrors of China and Russia in terms of, you know, monitoring people and controlling people and generally messing them about, and getting rid of freedom of speech and the decay of democracy. All of that has come over here. All those things have come over here. I mean, I think that the biggest shock of the week was, you know, the way that children under 16 can choose to have the COVID vaccines, choose to have this COVID virus as well, choose to have the COVID vaccine, whether they have their parents' permission or not. I mean, that is just absolutely, I mean, that's a Chinese type of edict.
That's an added freedom, not.
It's not an added. No, it's not an added free. It's not an added freedom. It's because the agenda is to give as many people this vaccine as possible. So it's the government's clampdown. It's not a freedom. It's a clampdown. That's the beauty of these things. A lot of these things are, they're taking away freedom under the guise of giving you freedom. So, I mean, that is outrageous that, you know, you lose control. They're not your children anymore. They can decide what they want to do. And that is something which is And so I think the real horror is not in the crypto market, but I think the China, the China situation there, we're going to have the same thing, 5 years down the line.
Well, that'll be a tailwind for crypto too. But it will be a big tailwind for crypto if the clampdown in China goes on in the way that it's going, because a lot of rich people will be trying to get their money out really fast and trying to make their wealth vanish. And of course, the only way to do that is with crypto. And if you actually watch the price, the big move is in Asia overnight, which is then mirrored the opposite in America or in Europe later on. So you're seeing people either buying in China and selling in Europe, or selling in China and buying in Europe or America. So I think the grey rhino for crypto, the really bullish thing that might drive the price through the roof against my bearish tendency, which I think is going through the floor, is if this China clampdown keeps going.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the whole point of the crypto. If there is a point to it, apart from the technology advance, it is that you get away from all the HMRC and all the other horrific police organizations that we have who are a law unto themselves. So to be able to have money safely, the banks and the regulators and the tax people, they've gone too far. And if they hadn't gone too far, we wouldn't have the need for crypto and all that kind of this technology that we have. So I think crypto is it's the rebel's choice. I mean, it is still that, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Zach, I kind of disagree on that. I mean, I do agree it was and he has been the rebel choice, but at the same time, it got so mainstream that more and more people are actually inquiring about getting into crypto, where, it's kind of accepted to be one of the trend that is going to be integrated in the world that is shaping up. So regulation does have to play a role in order to make, to integrate crypto and be able for those companies to serve more clients, because otherwise if it keeps being the rebel choice, there will always be this fight, and I can't see it going really mainstream unless there is a revolution.
Cash is the rebel's choice, and it remains a rebel's choice, and it's still the big deal. Cash is overwhelmingly the thing, and that is the criminals and rebels and choice. I mean, let me tell you a funny story. I know an artist, so they go to a bank in a tax haven, and they are an artist earning proper money, and they've opened a business account as an artist, and the bank doesn't want anything to do with them, but they persist to try to open an account. And in the end, the bank agrees, and then the chief bank manager comes out and says to them, look, you can have an account here, but don't you ever show up with 100 grand in cash. Yeah,
but what's the point of, but that's the thing, that's something, what's the point of there being cash if having cash has if I have cash in my pocket, why is that less important than cash anywhere else, when actually cash should be more important than any other form of money?
Yeah, well, I totally agree, but cash is still the choice of the rebel, as you.
Yeah, and cash is it's just like say all the crooks are into crypto. I mean, cash has been the best criminal instrument in the history of man. It's just about all. It's been fantastic. It's brilliant.
Well, banks are still getting hauled over the coals for money laundering billions. It still happens. Every 6 months, there's another bank that gets caught doing it in 9 figures or 10 figures for somebody. So it's a mad world.
And I think the next mad things that maybe we can cover next week is NFTs, because they are not classified as security. There was a lot of talk. Not yet, exactly. So I'm really passionate about that. But now let's move to something more concrete, because I know there are investors that want to know, how can I make a lot of money like Clem is doing? So Clem, over to you.
I wish you stopped saying that.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to help more investors to kind of.
What I would say is, look,
you never know who might be watching.
I'm not making hundreds of millions, okay?
No, but exactly. But you are kind of you are a visionary in the investment space, because you told the market in crypto and financial markets and everything is all down in Forbes. So let's unlock some of these secrets. And Zach, please challenge Clem, and let's try to to kind of get something.
I'm near my 200 moving average at the moment, so I'm all right.
Okay. Okay.
Come on,
so
Zach, you got to challenge me.
come on, Zach.
Oh, he's frozen. That's why. Are you unfrozen? Are you there, Zach? Come in.
I'm frozen. I'm a bit frozen. Am I here?
Yeah, you're here, Zach. You are here. You're here. Oh, you're moving now. Blimey.
I think we are guessing where you are if you keep moving around.
Yes, yes, we wondered. Yeah,
Broker office.
I'm actually, what? It's a proper office.
Yeah, broker office.
It's part of Coinbase, I think. Yeah,
Oh,
so
wow.
Congratulations.
yeah.
Was he joking or was he serious? I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, let me get this going.
Okay.
And while Zach's internet goes via Mars.
Yeah.
The thing that has totally blown me away in the last couple of weeks, and I think this is an investment theme for the rest of your life. You could buy these stocks, put them in a bottom drawer, come back 20 years, and some of them will be 0 and some of them will be 50 times. And that is gene editing, US. And there's 3 stocks that I own, which I'm going to own forever, I think, or maybe do a little bit of trading. And that's Editas, which is a Swiss company, Caribou, which is Nasdaq listed, and I always get the last one on the list. I always forget CRISPR. Now they're all doing gene editing using CRISPR, and all these 3 companies were founded either by the people that got the Nobel Prize for developing CRISPR, and/or their apprentice, their lab assistant, well, genius, whatever. And this is basically programming for the computer of life, DNA. So if you can be worth 750 billion because you're changing the engine in a motor vehicle, you can be worth a damn sight more if you swap out the engine of life itself. And CRISPR is a newish technology which was discovered by a yogurt researcher in France, which was kicked over to these professors who then went, oh, I can now go in accurately, quickly, and in vivo, i.e. in living things, and go snip, snip with DNA and go snip, snip and put some new stuff in. So they've turned DNA into a programming language. So that's just going to be world changing. You know, it's Prometheus or Frankenstein, depending on your point of view. Maybe they'll get their livers pecked out by eagles, but it is the biggest thing. I mean, crypto's massive, but this is like life itself. And of course, it's not just human beings and health, it's plants and crops, and any living thing can now be or will be able to be edited DNA. So all those genetic diseases, all those cancers, all those crazy health things, and all those, oh yeah, we need to make that grain a little bit shorter so it doesn't blow over. We need to make it resistant to the disease of rust. We need to make kittens glow in the dark for the Korean market. All that opens up with this technology. There's only like 4 companies that are in that field, and Editas, CRISPR, and Caribou are all from the very fountainhead of the inventors of this technology. I mean, what?
Okay, right. I have got all 3 down. Just as a question, when you identify a trend that could be, you know, exactly gene editing, and you are looking at the players there, which kind of element make you judging, right? I think this is a good one or this is a bad one. And what kind of tools you use to make this decision, and where do you check them?
Well, you want the people behind it to be credible, not some, hey, I'm a stock promoter, you know, and my current project is gene editing, and we're going to float on the AIM market. And
exactly, you know them. You know many of them.
Good people, you want very good people.
The people behind these companies got Nobel Prizes. Well, one in each, and the other one is a young lady who was their worked under them, was their doctorate student, I believe, and she's Caribou. And the biggest one is worth $10 billion, which is, you know, peanuts in America. CRISPR is worth $4 billion, and Caribou is worth $1 billion. And these are the leading people in the field of CRISPR, which is going to be a earth-shaking technology, and already is. So it's like, What, for $1 billion I can buy into that company, or for 10 billion I can buy to that company? No, go buy Tesla. They've done batteries in cars for 750 billion. Oh, by the way, Apple is worth more than the whole of the FTSE 100, just FYI.
Wow. Okay, and why is that? Why is that is allowing to happen?
Because the Fed keeps printing money. They've got to put it somewhere. They can't lend it to anybody that can't give it to them back. And who's going to lend money to people at the moment? I mean, unless you're going to put it against property or stocks.
Yeah, because so Clem, you mentioned just the Fed keep printing and these things. So looking at September, there are earnings coming up, Fed tightening. Do you see a bear market in September? Do you see kind of a bearish trend?
Well, I'm going to come on. I know Zach's got strong opinions on this. Come on, Zach. You say what you think, and then I'll say what I think. Otherwise, I'll just go for 2 hours without taking a breath.
Well, about the Fed.
Yeah.
About the Fed.
Yeah, the September premonition, or not premonition, trends.
Well, I think if you look at the market, well, I mean, maybe today is the end of the line, but I think so far, in the recent past, any dips in the market have been bought into quite aggressively. Actually, most people are caught short of stock and short of the Dow and the DAX and everything else like that. And in that sort of climate, I think it's not only the Fed's policy, that they get hawkish for 5 minutes and the market goes down a bit and then they have to change their words. It is also the way that the stock market is part of the inflationary bubble. We're all on a path here where we're committed to a cheaper and cheaper money, let's say, and we can't change that course. And we're hoping that inflation won't come in and ruin it all. And I think so far that's kind of working. And but there's no way of really getting out of it now. We're already in that spiral. And also you've got Biden, which is it's a Democratic government, a Democrat government and or regime, and I just don't see any change from this at all. You'll have what we've had for the last 10 years, where you have some very, very highly growing asset bubbles and some very deflationary spirals which sort of cancel each other out. And that's what you're kind of hoping for, that imbalance in, you said house prices going through the roof, but you have white collar and white goods going through the floor, white collar pay going through the floor. So I think, it's sort of all in a way balanced out, but we have to be very lucky that it's going to continue to balance out, at least in a way that doesn't lead to social unrest or civil unrest and things like that. The COVID really let governments off the hook, because they could print again under a guise of trying to save the world, and it came just in time. I think I don't know how or what the next excuse will be for printing money, but I suppose COVID is one that's going to run and run.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I think that the market itself is in two minds, and I totally agree with Zach. I can't see what they're going to do. Introduce austerity? What are the chances of that? Exactly zero, right? So, gate inflation, factory gate inflation in China this month, or the numbers came out this morning, 10%. So the cost of manufacturing in China has gone up 10%. So that's going to go through the whole world right there. Mm-hmm. So, inflation is here, but the market doesn't seem to know whether it's coming or going over it. One day it thinks it's going to be deflation, which, how's that going to happen? And the next minute it goes, oh, it's going to be inflation. And I can't see where the argument is. I can't see how you can carry on at all with that inflation. The inflation is the only way to rebalance the mess that we economically are in. The only way to get it and to smooth the ride is through inflation, because people not being very numerate in general don't notice their wealth getting eroded at 8 or 9% a year. They just feel, oh, that's a little bit pricey. Oh, that's a little bit pricey. It's a boiling the frog technique. It has been since the Roman Empire. So it's a tried and tested way. And after every war or brackets catastrophe, there's always massive inflation at the end of the First World War. If you turn it around,
is this the last 10 years actually government's trying to create inflation to reduce the value of money and not being able to do it.
Well, that's what they say, but I don't agree with that at all. I think what they've been trying to do is pump money into government budgets and not create inflation. They've done that by pumping them into assets, which then has a trickle down. So you get the money into the system and you tax profits from equities, you have stamp duties, you have property taxes, et cetera, which are massive in America, for example. And that extra wealth is quite illiquid. So it doesn't go to the poor. The poor create inflation. If you take wealth disparity between the rich and the poor and you open it up, that's deflationary. If you squeeze it together, that's inflationary. If you print money and give it to the poor, not only do they need to spend it, they want to spend it and they'll just spend it. And that's inflationary. That's where we're in that zone now. If you give it to the rich just park it. Yeah, they park it in real estate.
So aren't we in a good place though, at the moment? I mean, literally at the moment, you've got people on furlough, they've been enjoying themselves. You've got rich people who got rich over the pandemic. I mean, what's the problem? Everything looks all right.
Exactly.
But the furlough is finishing.
Exactly, and that's why there's inflation. There's a lot of inflation out there.
What's wrong with inflation? I like inflation.
I don't disagree with you.
They pay me more. They'll pay that. They pay me more. The value of my debt goes down. Stock market probably goes up because people better pricing power for companies. I mean, in fact the real problem the last 20 years was not actually it was not inflation, it was the lack of inflation. That was a nightmare.
Well, right now the market isn't agreed that we're going to get strong inflation, which is bizarre, and I can't work out what the counter argument against inflation is. I don't see the deflationary argument, but I don't see the inflationary pressures on things that would do well in inflation, like, for example, gold, or for that matter, even stocks. Well, maybe you could argue that stocks are rising on the inflationary trade, but it's not clear that the market agrees that we're going to get a run of strong inflation. I don't understand why that is.
Yeah, but you could say we're actually post-inflation. It's like, it's just forget the concept, just forget it. Just the market forces, market prices, and that's it. Just Well,
it would be not. Well, it wouldn't be nice if there was market forces. We'd all be in the dustbin if there was market forces.
But nobody's complaining about computer being 500 quid in 2000, now being 500 quid in 2020. I mean, that's as cheap as chips, right? And
apart from you can't buy them right now.
Well, there we are. So that's all right. So, but basically, the things that go down have, in many ways, cancelled out the things that go up.
Well, that's the argument of the people that do inflation. And of course, you could say, well, there's rich man's inflation, there's middle class inflation, there's poor man's inflation. Well, that's quite an interesting concept right there. But certainly, after a period of a few years from now, you will look at your house, your pint of beer, your restaurant meal, and it will be rebased. And you want to get into assets that will rebase, but right now they don't seem to be repricing themselves in line with a picture of high inflation over the next few years, and that's rather strange.
No, man, I think it is true. I was watching an episode of Minder, and the guy gets a taxi, £3.20, complaining about it. But that's bloody good in 1982. I mean, it hasn't gone up. Taxi fare has not gone up as much as it, it hasn't actually. It's not painful. It's not. 10 quid is not the same as £3.20 was then. So the numbers, it's the currency is the same, but actually the effect of different, 10 quid or 20 quid, etc., are totally different than they were then. It's almost as if it's a different currency. Almost it's a different type of.
Well, I just got the new £20 note coming to England for the first time in 2 years, and it certainly is a different currency. It's a £20 note. It's the same size as £5 note now. In my day.
Exactly.
So, and I'm not talking about the white fiver either. I'm talking
exactly. So all the things you would associate, when we were younger, with the £5 note are now a £20.
Yeah,
taxi fare, packet of fags, the beer, the this, the that, all those things. Just like you buy a round, it's like it's a fiver. That kind of thing. Now you buy a round, it's 20 quid. So that sort of thing. I try not to buy around.
But at the same time, we see obviously technology is getting cheaper and cheaper, because obviously that's the way that happens as technology develops, and it kind of spur into kind of that movement of individual empowerment, where because people have got technology, they can perhaps have more access to payment, to bank account and stuff like that, which is kind of counteracting on the big divide that is created by inflation.
Well, I think, to be honest with you, Steffi, you are demonstrating the reason why the market's confused about inflation and what to do about it, because you weren't alive when it was there. When I was just about alive, I remember going into a store with a pound note and buying 5 toys, little cars, and then 2 months later I went in and I could only buy 4 cars with that £1. And then I went in 2 months later, I could only buy 3. They got up to 33p each from 20p. And I went in a month or 2 later, and then all of a sudden they were 50p. So I could only get 2 for my £1. And then they went to 70p, and I stopped buying them. And that is what inflation does. Inflation disrupts everything if it's too high. It breaks everything. You end up like Argentina or Brazil with a fractured economic system, because people can't invest for the future. Well, they have to think, what's your stock worth? If you've got your stock and you leave it there, it's going to double in value. So you have to buy your stock and all that stuff.
But this is a point that I said before. Now that we have the internet, we have price transparency. It's much more difficult unless it's in the areas which you can't. They're not on the internet, like the price of a painting, which even that's on the internet. Now with price transparency, you can't have runaway inflation. So in fact, inflation died with the internet in the way that we had it before. So
well, that's a very interesting theory. I like it. It's very brave.
I'm looking for a Nobel Prize on that. I'm looking for a Nobel Prize on that.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, I bought a Gauguin a couple of years ago, and it's worth a fuck ton more, pardon my French, today than it was then. So there's certainly, internet's got prices, and it certainly doesn't seem to keep the prices down.
No, but if for everyday goods, you're not going. You're going to just be looking around at Currys and this and that for your computer.
You can't buy it. You can't buy it now. You can't buy
it. You can't buy it, but there's no inflation on it, is there?
Oh yeah, if you want to buy, actually really need to pay money for one, you are going to get an interesting price. Go onto Amazon and have a look at the interesting prices for notebook computers if you really want one. Yeah, that's what causes it. But you could say that's supply side inflation, not demand side inflation.
Yeah,
sure. But it's spooky how everyone's saying, "Oh, no inflation, no inflation." The prices of manufactured goods in China, which after all supply pretty much everybody, up 10%. 10%. No inflation, no internet. I mean, the market is telling me that Zach is right in a way. Half the market is saying what Zach is saying. And I don't want to argue too much with that, because the market's always right. But the market goes, Zach, Clem, Zach, Clem.
Yeah, but it's one of those things. It's like if it's not, I'm not going to buy the computer at more than, I know it should be 500 quid. I'm not going to pay more than 500 quid. So it's not marked to market. That inflation is not marked to market.
Welcome to stagflation. Remember stagflation? You were around to stagflation.
I've been around with everything, really.
Stagflation, whoa, that's not so good. In fact, that in a sense is what the market's suggesting is a strong possibility. Stagflation, inflation, and everyone goes, "Oh, I'm not going to buy that. That's too much. Oh, I'm not going to go to that restaurant. It's too much." And then, of course, you get dropping GDP or a no.
That's more likely. I mean, that would be the thing that people it's like a strike. It is that buying strike or that activity strike. You don't pay it. You don't pay £1,000 for the air ticket because last year you paid I paid 100 quid. So you're just not going to do it. And so that's what I'm saying, that these things, whereas maybe in the old days people would bid up stuff and actually pay for stuff because they didn't. It was that natural marketplace. Now you have people just put the circuit breaker on. They just don't do it.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, a stagflation scenario it goes some of the way to explaining the market's mind. But I think government, they'll see stagflation, and boy, will they crack the handle even harder. And you will not get stagflation. Well, maybe it will be stagflation. It's inflation wherever it's inflation, but the market has not yet decided that it's going to happen, and I've decided it's going to happen. I'm either right or wrong, and I can't. It's like maybe the penny will drop, but when it does, you'll see gold go through the roof.
The penny will drop on stagflation. That's a good concept, actually. Ironic one. Well, I've got to go back to work, folks, very soon. So, you know, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, well, it was like this scary scenario where, you know, I've been speaking with a few stockbrokers that were telling, oh, no, we don't think the market is going to go down. It just keep going up. That was basically the simplified response to my worries, where now we are looking at different scenario and I'm not sure about stagflation, but it seems scary.
There's only one chart to watch, and that is the S&P 500. And it's going at 90 degrees, smooth as silk. And we're getting a bump now because, you know, the Germans are probably going, oh, it's inflation. We don't like to see inflation. Oh, come on, ECB, what are you doing? They're printing the money, stop. Or whatever. Out. And, you know, there's a nervousness about tapering in Europe. And of course they'll taper because they're all got to sync up with inflation, deflation to keep their currencies balanced.
But there is worries about supply chain as well, because,
broken. Yeah,
because exactly, and what is going to happen with COVID? I mean, hopefully nothing worse than what it was before. But
herd immunity. I mean, they came out. You know, you just look at the numbers. It's in a year's time, at the current rate of 40,000. Yeah, you're going to have 12 million people who've had new people who've had COVID. That'd be 20 million people. It'd be a third of the people within 12 months who would have had COVID. So, you know, they've managed to get it to a state where it's now supportable to get to herd immunity one way or the other.
Yeah, well, if they keep on doing conferences like we went, that if I hadn't got COVID there, I don't know. Okay, Zach, listen, thank you so much. Clem, thank you for sharing thoughts on, I think today was more about inflation scenario, and we have got 3 stocks for investors to go and research on. And then maybe next time, I really want to talk about NFTs market because it's mental. And then maybe Clem, let's take out some tools from ADVFN for people to actually play around with their decision making.
So are you going to play around with it at your end, or am I going to risk my security by showing my desktop on YouTube?
Well, I can share no problem, and then you can tell me.
I can talk you through it.
Exactly. You can talk me through, and then maybe Zach can pick up also some stock.
Yeah, make sure you don't have any details on your desktop when you do it, else you might find your wallet hacked.
Exactly. That's a good point. Okay, so me and myself and Zach are going to pick up some stock that you can use as an example. One is definitely going to be Vodafone, because I remember your takeover prediction.
Well, the one I've got at the moment, which I'm going, really? But if it happens, it's going to be interesting. Glaxo. Yeah? Okay. Pfizer or Merck taking over Glaxo. Not possible, is it? But, you know, I've got a little ooh about that. And another one that's kind of interesting for you people that are listening, Informa. They're quite interesting. They could get a takeover. In fact, they could all get a blooming takeover.
So what Informa does?
It shows and information and all that good stuff. But, you know, I've been looking for takeovers for companies that are really great value. But the ones that, a lot of them that get taken over are actually really quite expensive, which is kind of like a twist on it. Yeah. And Informa is one of those companies which is highly rated. So, but anyway, we will see what we will see.
Exactly. Clem, thank you.
See you later.